All right, good evening. It looks like we have everyone. Looks like we have all of our panelists here. So we'll go ahead and begin tonight's meeting as usual with the call to order, which we just had, letting you know that it's 7 p.m. and we're starting now. And then our roll call. So we'll go through each commission area, single member district, 5D01. Commissioner Sabrina Rhodes is not able to attend tonight's meeting due to a family emergency. 5D02.
Present.
5D03.
Present.
5D04.
Present.
5D05. I'm the commissioner for that area. Commissioner for 5D06 has resigned. So there's no one currently serving in that position, although Commissioner Salcedo Guzman and Commissioners Cobb are picking up any constituent concerns in that area. And then 5D07.
Present.
Okay, it looks like we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. So let's go ahead and move forward with the adoption of the minutes. I move that we adopt the minutes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved for last month's meeting. And then I'll turn over the floor to Commissioner Cobb for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. For September 2022, we had an opening balance of $26,636.18. We had no allocations and no expenses, so our opening balance is the same as our closing balance. Now for the quarterly financial report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2022, which ended at the end of September. We started with a balance of $27,156.53. We had $520.35 in expenses to give us an ending balance of $26,636.18. Does anyone have any questions about either? Okay. Then I move that we adopt the quarterly financial report as written.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Blacknell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it for the quarterly financial report, FY22 Q4. I think we just lost our next speaker from MPD. So I think what we'll do is put Mr. Hunter from the mayor's office on the spot and have him go ahead and share any community updates, and then we'll circle back to MPD once Lieutenant Hakir is able to join us again. All right, and Mr. Hunter, I think you're still on mute.
Good evening, everyone. How y'all guys doing?
Doing well. Hope you are too.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So I don't have much for you all, except I just want to make sure that y'all guys have on y'all radar that about the mayor initiative, making sure that by 2030, that the initiative is to have 20,000 new Black homeowners by the year of 2030. So just want to make sure that if you guys that have any neighbors or friends that interested into like the first time home buying program, I highly encourage you to direct them to DHPD website or as some of you all may already know, some of the nonprofit organization that is all over the district, where you can go into the website and register to one of their orientation. The appropriate website that you all can go to is frontdoor.dc.gov. And to go back onto the announcement that she had made, which I believe last Monday, her and DMPED and Black Home Ownership Strike Force. They made an announcement regarding the 20,000 additional Black DC resident homeowner by 2030. So the strike force also published a report that include like 10 recommendations to support the new goal. The mayor charged the strike force with providing recommendation for use of the $10 million Black home ownership fund in fiscal year 2023 fair shot budget, which is creating a goal for increasing the number of Black home ownership in DC by 2030. So just for anyone that that would like to stay informed of this initiative, please. I'm gonna make sure I drop the link in the chat, but you also you want to be directed to like the National Black Home Ownership Collaborative, which would identify 7 steps to increase the Black home ownership by 3 million net new homeowner by naturally again 2030. That is what I have, and also this past week, but not this week, but last week, we did what they DPW call a fall fresh cleanup. Our starting point was at Bladensburg and Maryland Avenue, on the corner of the CVF, and they went through all throughout Ward 5 between Trinidad and Carver, and cleaned up alleyways. They also started from Bladensburg all the way to North Capitol. So I was part of the initiative. So I try to go through as many alleys, hot spots in on that side to so I can like send over to their inspector, so that way they can have their team come through and clean up all the items. Also, I believe they are coming back out this week. I don't have the exact date, but please don't quote. I'm gonna make sure I can check so I can put that in the chat if I happen to find it before the meeting is over with. And that will be all for my update as I have for right now. I'd like to leave the floor for any additional questions or concerns that you guys may have.
Thank you for that. I do have one comment, not really a question, regarding the housing initiative. I think it would be extremely helpful if we could get the mayor's office or this new Office on Racial Equity to put out some guidelines for ANCs to help make sure that the housing stock matches the needs of the community.
Okay.
As we're trying to get, additional Black homeowners. Because I do know just from previous work that's been done by some of the policy institutes in the city that the preference in housing for Black and Brown homeowners tends to be more family style housing, so that there's multiple bedrooms, to support, children, multi-generational living with elder adults, things like that.
Okay.
So any kind of information or data that could be provided to help ANCs across the city make decisions like that, so that it's a good match for the homeowners as well, would be helpful.
Okay, I'll check with DHPD to have any like guidance on that.
Mm-hmm. Do any of the other commissioners have comments or questions?
No.
I had a question, Mr. Hunter. Do you have a log of the alleys that were targeted during this DPW cleanup?
I don't. It was more like it wasn't a log, but it was more like a blitz. So they were just going through all areas and just like random areas in the ward, to see whatever illegal dumps or items that they can clean up. So it wasn't like a list of streets or alleyways that they were targeting.
Do you know if there's a point of contact that or an office that could potentially hold a meeting with commissioners and residents regarding some of the work that DPW tackles here in South Ward 5?
I
haven't had the best experience with the city of I think Clean City.
Okay.
But if there's another office maybe that we can arrange a meeting with DPW just to address some concerns before we come into the new commission.
Okay, so I will reach out to the deputy mayor of infrastructure. I'm not sure if you know Mashawn.
Mm-mm.
Okay, yeah, so she was kind of the lead of this initiative. So
Okay, cool.
I'll reach out to her to see if that's an arrangement that she can make anytime soon.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Okay, anything else from commissioners? And just a reminder, if you're a member of the public, you can add a question to the Q&A, and just let us know if you have a question for a specific person. Okay, anything else from commissioners? All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Hunter. If you could just drop your information in the chat for everyone, we'd
Okay.
certainly appreciate it.
All right.
All right, and then next up, we'll come back to MPD. Lieutenant Hakir, I do see that you're back online. If you could give us MPD's update. We cannot hear you. Something's going wrong with the audio. It does look like you're off mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm sorry. I got some. Tell my ring off. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. It's good to see you all. Some of you I saw over the summer. As it relates to the 5th district, we've had a couple of changes. We have a new inspector now. Inspector Sylvan Altieri. He just recently was transferred from the 6th district to the 5th district to be the inspector here. We haven't traditionally had an inspector here. So the rank is that we have the commander, then the inspector, the captains, and then the lieutenants. So he's the manager, one of the managers of the captains and everybody that's subordinate to captain. I'm sitting in for my captain, Jerome Merrill, and I have the stats in front of me, but I wanted to say that one of these stats has changed since the stats were pulled. We pulled the stats yesterday, and there was a homicide today in the 800 block of 21st Street Northeast. That homicide will certainly be a closed case. The suspect is known. So it's just a matter of apprehending that person. So that was just a isolated incident. And it happened, inside. So that nobody in the neighborhood needs to be particularly worried in reference to that homicide. And the last homicide that we had prior to that, I saw Commissioner Saucedo Guzman on. Unfortunately, in the 1200 block of Miggs, there was a homicide. That homicide is still being actively investigated, but it's my understanding that there's a lot of great information and a lot of really good leads, and I believe that homicide will also be closed. I know the young man who was killed, he had just been released from prison for shooting somebody else. So I guess he got released in August, and then in September, he was killed. But overall, throughout the summer, we had a better summer than last summer as it relates to violent crime. For this same time last year, we are down, our assaults with a deadly weapon, gun violence calls, we're down 80% from this same time last year. As it relates to robberies, we're even from the same time last year. So our violent crime is down 50%. As I said, there would be another homicide on here from the one this morning. So I guess those numbers are not really exactly the same, but that's certainly, like I said, going to be a closed case. As it relates to burglaries, we're also down 80%. Motor vehicle thefts are up slightly. Last year, this time we had 2. This year, this time we have 3, which is still very low for this area. I think people are doing better at not leaving their cars unattended. And then thefts from autos. So we've had an additional 2 theft from autos this time last year than we did last time this year. So we still and always encourage people to make sure you try to leave any valuables out of sight, or make sure you don't put valuables in your car to begin with, to try and prevent people from wanting to break into your car. And then our regular thefts, just petty thefts, are down 43%. So overall, in PSAs 506 and 507, Sector 3, things have been going pretty good. We just recently did a matrix. The commander made a matrix is when people get to kind of choose their schedule and days off based on seniority. And the commander changed some things so that there's more officers on the days and shifts that we traditionally have an increase in crime. And he did that because obviously we are short of staff, but he's working on it. And we have had new officers come to the 5th district since the last ANC meeting. So overall, I would say things are looking up. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
I have one, Lieutenant Hakia.
Hey.
For your inspector, this is the first time, and maybe I live under a rock, but this is the first time I'm hearing of a role of an inspector. What does his job actually entail?
So an inspector, so once you make captain, everything above captain is an appointed position. And typically inspectors run like substations. So at the 6th district, if you're familiar with 6th district, there was a substation on Pennsylvania Avenue, like right by Pennsylvania and Minnesota. And then you had the main station, which is like off of Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue. Typically inspectors run substations. In this particular situation, we got the inspector, I think he got transferred here maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I believe that he was transferred here because we have a new assistant chief, and her vision for 5D, she felt like he would be good to come here to help, oversee her vision for the 5th district. So he has a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, and he's going to help make some administrative changes and do some other things. So this is the first time that the 5th district has had an inspector. But like I said, he is, as it relates to rank, the commander is the boss of the 5th district, and then the inspector is right underneath him. So whenever the commander is on leave or anything, the inspector will be the person in charge. And then, yeah, that's basically it.
Just to do a follow-up, like as as a constituent of 5D, in retrospect, like, could you kind of give an example for those, like you said, this is our first inspector here at 5D. Can you give an example of like, why would we need him, or when would we be able to ask him or need him for anything?
So really, Captain Merrill is the manager responsible for this specific sector. But if you, let's say, weren't getting a response, or just, it would be basically like escalating to somebody's boss. If you really wanted to reach out to Inspector Altieri, that's what it would be for. But for the most part, he's doing a lot of administrative stuff here in 5D to try to make things run a little more smoothly, because, we had our old commander left. So there was, there's been a lot of change here. So that's
Gotcha.
it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I have a question before we go on to community questions or other commissioners.
Yes, ma'am.
The homicide on the 800 block of 21st Street, does this relate to the incident last week and now this person has passed away as a result of their injuries, or is this a separate incident that occurred today?
This is totally separate. This the suspect shot this person in cold blood, just shot him today. And that person succumbed to their injuries. But like I said, the suspect is known by name, and that we know who this person is from just patrolling in 5D. We know who this person is. I know who the person is from when I used to walk a footbeat on Benning Road. So this person, the suspect, has many prior gun charges, and so does the victim. But like I said, we know who the suspect is. So.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And then Commissioner Sauceda Guzman.
Hi, Lieutenant. How you doing? Good to
Good,
see you.
thanks. Yeah, you
Thanks
too.
for coming to our meeting. First, I want to see if you can give just a really big thank you to the responding officer for the homicide that occurred on Miggs Place earlier last month. I think he handled the situation very well. There was a man dying to his left while there was a group of men trying to react and I guess accept what was happening right in front of them. And things were very, very tense in that second while that was happening, and he responded very well. So I don't know who that responding officer was, but kudos to him and his work and the officers that showed up on the scene. My question goes back to that inspector. Being that we haven't had one before in 5D, would it be safe to assume that this inspector would eventually transition into the commander for the 5th district, since our current commander is retiring in the upcoming months?
So I can tell you what I think. This is just, I mean, this is just what I think, okay? This is not confirmed, but I think it's likely. I think it's likely. However, I have no idea. Chief Conti always keeps us guessing, and he can pick from any captain or above on the police department to precede our commander. So, but I do think that, you know, he might be here to really get to, you know the ropes of 5D so that he can, when the transition comes, it can be very smooth. But that's just what I think, right? That's not confirmed, and nobody has told me that for sure. But
No,
I think that's a great assumption.
Yeah, just knowing that 6th district is a different, it's different, and 5D is just a different beast. It would make sense that you would place them in that position to transition well, since we've had a bumpy journey this year with leadership in the district for us over here. So it was just a question I had. But other than that, is there any updates on some of the matters that have been happening over here in Trinidad, particularly? I know just the neighbors are very tense about the situation. Some of them were saying it felt like there was a war going on, which at the end of the day, pieces of metal flying through the roads and streets, it does make it feel like that. So I did speak to the assistant chief about it, saying that things were tense over here, and if we can get more police officers walking the beat. But we understand as commissioners, and some of the residents do as well, that where there's a shortage on officers, and the job isn't getting easier. So is there any updates that you can probably provide us regarding the matter?
Yeah, so thanks for that. I will say that your neighbors have really been coming through. When they see something, they have been letting us know, and we have been making sure to get that information to homicide or the detective's office, or in some cases, they might say, hey, there are people hanging out in the alley. I send my sergeant over there and, send officers. So I have been really trying to make sure that when officers are not on an assignment, they are there being visible. If you're not seeing that, you should let me know. But I have gotten a lot of positive feedback that there has been an increase of people that live there, like actually seeing the officers. And not just in your neighborhood, really 506 and 507 have traditionally been, the places where there's the most crime in 5D. Now 502 and 501 are kind of, North Capitol Street is kind of like taking a lot of that. But I have told the officers, I've been giving them pamphlets to pass out to constituents, things to make them actually have to interact with the citizens, get out the car and interact with them, and to give them literature and to receive feedback. And I have a Sergeant Hanson, who's really great, and Sergeant Creveling. One is 507, Hanson is 507, and Creveling is 506. I've had them out there with the officers giving me regular updates as it relates to what the officers' activities are, as to what they're seeing when they're out on the street supervising. So if you don't see the officers, let me know. We don't have a lot of officers, but they have been instructed that they need to be constantly patrolling as to give the illusion to bad guys that there are enough officers or more police officers, not to just be sitting still, not to just be on their phones, in their cars with their head down. They know that that's unacceptable. So we've been working on that. And I know community outreach is working on doing some events like in the Rosedale neighborhood. We
Yeah,
might
they
need
have a
to-
few lined up for October, yes.
Yeah, and we might need to get with them to see what they're planning on doing in Trinidad, because I haven't seen anything in my email,
Mm-mm,
Trinidad or Ivy City as of
mm-mm.
lately, but that's something we can also work on too, to try and, continue to bridge the gap and work together.
Yeah, they don't have anything lined up for Mount Olivet, but the level of engagement has changed in Mount Olivet between Ivy City and Trinidad, so we do appreciate that. We at least see it, at least those that, are posted up in front of their homes a little bit longer than others. So we appreciate the engagement. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Great, thank you. So let's move on to at least 2 community questions I think we have time for this evening. So from Skip Keats, query for MPD. What is being done to halt red light running, stop stabbings and shootings in Carver Langston at the Starbucks Plaza and on Benning Road, and pedestrians being hit? So kind of 2 separate questions, regarding traffic safety, and then some of the stabbings and shootings recently. Apparently, another pedestrian was hit this evening at Florida Avenue and 14th Street Northeast, where Ward 5 and Ward 6 meet.
Okay, so as it relates to traffic safety, I know that the mayor has a new initiative where she is trying to hire a significant amount of traffic control officers. I think they used to be like crossing guards, and they used to work, the school crossing guards used to work like a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours when school got out. But that has changed, and she's hiring people to work like 4 8-hour shifts to do traffic safety throughout the city and traffic control. We encourage officers to do traffic stops. We encourage them to do that. But oftentimes, when officers are not on an assignment, it's like traffic stops are good because they show like visibility, right? But we also encourage them to try and use any time that they might have outside of an assignment to be actively trying to prevent violent crime. So the officers have to kind of gauge based on where they're assigned, what the priorities are. I think as it relates to like speeding, their speed cameras, which they do work for the most part. And we talked to them about engaging people as it relates to doing traffic, but that's more of a kind of like a DDOT thing. That traffic, I think the mayor's trying to make that more of a DDOT thing to help us out. That was kind of part of the what should the police be responsible for? It's not that we shouldn't do traffic stops, but like traffic safety. I also think traffic control officers can write tickets. There's lots of things that they can do. So that's part of it. For the violent crime, man, we're working with C. Sosa. We've been doing like community walks where you got people who are probation and parole that are, MPD officers are going with their probation and parole officers to meet them in the community, to get to know them. We're trying to make sure that the officers engage citizens as much as possible to reduce violent crime. And it has been working. It has certainly been working. In the beginning of the year, it was kind of rough. We had a lot of violent crime, and we have been talking to the officers and roll calls every single day and kind of monitoring what they do closely. And we've seen a great result as it relates to a reduction in crime. So we are working on the gun violence and the stabbings. The traffic, though, it kind of has to happen when the officers are not on an assignment.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Next question from Kevin Horgan. And I think this is related to the topic with the mayor. So we'll skip and come back to that. Next question for MPD from Carrie Dulesky. We have hotspots in Trinidad and Carver Langston that could use more MPD boots on the ground. We could provide block numbers and street names of those hotspots. So I think Lieutenant Hakir, if you'll make sure to leave your contact information in the chat box for everyone.
Okay, yeah, just put
Then
it in
you guys can link up. But I can tell you, of course, it's a lot of the same locations: 19th and Benning, 21st Street, I Street.
Yep. So I am going to put my email address in here. If you have any suggestions, feel free to email me. I'll take them to roll calls, and we kind of, we have a certain deployment, but we can kind of say, hey, look, while you guys are out, I need you to do this, or I need you to do that. And typically officers, like I said, when they're not on assignment, like on a 911 call for service, then they can go do those things. So I will make sure I include my information.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think those are the last questions for MPD. So we'll just look forward to your contact information in the chat box, and then I will answer the remaining questions. I think we have that are ANC questions, and one is a commentary for the mayor's office.
Okay.
But thank you so much for your time, Lieutenant.
Thank you. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Kevin Horgan says, I would like to second Commissioner Moore's question on the types of units being built in the city. There's a pending zoning commission case right now, ZC 15-24, and 563 of the 647 units, 80%, are proposed to be studios and 1-bedrooms. The district's new program to increase Black home ownership won't help unless family-sized units exist. I understand there is less profit for developers with building fewer family-sized units instead of lots of studios and 1-bedrooms, but surely we can do better than 62 2-bedrooms and 22 3-bedroom units out of 647 total. And I do agree with that. Steve Gonzalez, we have just opened up the website, a media school here in Ward 5. I would like to invite you to come visit. And then at 1235 W Street Northeast. So thank you for that. You are more than welcome to just shoot us an email at 5d@anc.dc.gov. And that will put you in contact with the commission overall. So we'll be able to coordinate times and, see if people want to visit. Carrie Dulesky is pointing out chat is disabled background. I don't know why that's been happening lately. But thank you for letting us know. I'm still getting the pop-ups for the chat. So I'm not sure what's happening there. Next up on our agenda, we do have to move back to one item, which is that we needed to make an update to tonight's agenda, which we did not approve yet. So that's my fault. But we do want to move to approve the agenda with one amendment, which is to remove the voting action for Gallaudet University Parcel 4. Commissioner Rose is not able to make it tonight, and there's no upcoming hearing date besides just the set down hearing for that case. So we do want to give her time to make sure she can weigh in and share the response from her community on that. So I move to accept the agenda as amended. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. Thanks so much, everyone, for indulging me and going back there. Next up, we have sorry, I don't want to skip the Ward 5 Council Member's Office. We have Donnie Crawford with us tonight to give us updates from the Ward 5 Council Member's Office.
Thanks, Commissioner Moore. Good evening to everyone. I just have 2 scheduling updates. The Carver Langston Community Outreach event, it was originally scheduled for this Thursday morning. Because of the impending thunderstorms, it's being rescheduled for October 27th, same time, 10 to 2 p.m. outside of the Patsy Hartsfield Center on Maryland Avenue. And this is the event where our office is collaborating with a number of district agencies, Department of Health, Department of Human Services, Behavioral Health, OAG, and several other agencies, just to have a bunch of tables and resources for residents to come out and peruse. And then the second one is the Jobs Not Guns recruitment fair that I talked about during September's meeting. it has been rescheduled for November 16th. It's still going to be at Turkey Thicket, and the times is still between the hours of 10 and 3 p.m. There were just some logistical things that the planning team had to work out, so that's why it's no longer in mid-October, and it's now going to be in November. And those are the only 2 updates that I have.
Okay. Any comments or questions from the commissioners before we move on to members of the public?
I have one, Commissioner Moore.
Sure, go right ahead.
Good evening, Ms. Crawford. My name is Bernice Blackdown. I'm the ANC Commission for 5D04. And when Kwame and Kelly came out to do the walkthrough with us on the 20th of September, we encountered an incident on M Street, Maryland Avenue and M Street, where we have a female and a male that's living in the trailers there, and they have a little garage there and everything. And when I talked to Kwame again on the 3rd of this month, he said that he was going to get back to me, and he hasn't gotten back to me in reference to this. And the constituents on M Street are complaining about this male and female in this trailer, and it's like a got a little garage there where they're working on cars.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Blacknell. I'll follow up with Kwame tomorrow, just so he could get back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Because him and Kelly, we went together, just like I said, on the 20th of September and everything. And they took pictures. They talked to the male and the female, and they wanted some assistance, and housing and everything. And I don't know if they followed, up with Kwame or Kelly or not, but it is sort of like an ISO sort, and everything.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Anything else from commissioners? Okay, just a quick note from Skip Keats. If you could please repeat the 2 dates for the events.
Oh, yes. The Carver Langston Community Outreach event is going to be on October 27th, starting at 10 a.m. And then the Jobs Not Guns recruitment fair is going to be November 16th at Turkey Thicket, also at 10 a.m.
Okay, great. And then from Carrie Dulesky, will there be flyers distributed for the Jobs Not Guns event? It would be great if these could be distributed to groups like Cure the Streets and others to distribute to folks on the ground / in communities.
Yes, they are going to be distributed, and we'll make sure that the Cure the Streets will also be on the list. I'm pretty sure they are, but I'll follow up on that.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for that update.
Thank you.
All right. So next up on our agenda, we'll move forward to commission actions. We do have several requested presentations before we move on to the consent calendar for this month. Right now we have from the OAG's office, next up on our agenda, Alan James. So if you are on the line and you are in the participant section, if you could please raise your hand. If you know you're one of our upcoming panelists. Next after Alan James, we have from DOEE, chemical plant results from Hannah Ashinafi. So that should be coming up. Office of Planning, Ivy City Small Area Plan events from Valicia Wilson. And then DGS, Spingarn High School Planning Update from the Associate Director at DGS, John Stokes. So if you are in the audience and you know you're one of the upcoming presenters that I just named, if you could please raise your hand so that we can elevate you to a panelist when it's your time to speak. And I do see those hands going up. All right, and we'll give folks just a moment to rejoin the meeting as panelists. Okay. I do see OAG first on our list. If we have someone here from the Office of the Attorney General to talk about violence reduction outreach in Ward 5, you now have the floor. And please let me know if you need permission to share your screen. All right, and for those of you who are trying to join as panelists, remember you have to accept the invitation to become a panelist. All right, do we have anyone who's already a panelist here from the Office of the Attorney General? I'll give it just another moment and then we'll move forward. Okay, last call for the Office of the Attorney General, and then we'll move forward in the agenda. Okay, all right, I don't see anyone speaking up for OAG. So Department of Energy and Environment, we have chemical plant results in Ivy City. Hannah Ashanafi, I hope that is correct pronunciation of your name.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. And do you need to share your screen?
Yes, please. If you could give
Okay.
me permissions.
Sure, you will have those permissions in just 1 second. Okay, and you have permissions now, so feel free to start whenever you're ready.
All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Shanafi. I am Chief of the Compliance and Enforcement Branch in the Air Quality Division within DOEE. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing at National Engineering Products in Ivy City to get a better understanding of their emissions. So I'll start out just giving a quick update. For a lot of you might already be aware, there's a facility in Ivy City called National Engineering Products. It is located at 1950 Capitol Ave Northeast. This facility actually was brought to our Air Quality Division's attention by Commissioner Rhodes during one of our community listening sessions. So thank you, Commissioner Rhodes, and thank you to everyone in the community who's made us aware of the operations at this facility. So this facility, I've included a screenshot here from their website. They produce 3 major products. One of these products listed here, the pattern release, they haven't produced since 2018. They're not planning to produce again. So right now it's really just 2 products that they produce. These are sealants. The 2 products are called Copaltite and Nepseal. So these products, they produce batches. They produce the batches to order. So, whenever they get orders in, but they're typically about 1 to 2 times per month for each product that they make batches. So also within that facility at 1950 Capitol Ave, they have other operations such as bottling, labeling, packaging, shipping, processing orders. That's typically what they do at the plant. So DOEE, when we became aware of the facility, we started working with them to get a better understanding of, we really wanted to understand what's coming out of the facility and understand what the implications of that are for permitting. So we worked with our contractor, Tetra Tech, to do some sampling in the community. So the major objectives of our sampling were, 1, we wanted to measure the emissions of the known pollutants that from the production process based on what the facility gave us. So the facility gave us their safety data sheets, which tells us, what goes into their batch recipes. So we could see that there were some pollutants that we needed to test for. Namely, one of the products that we know causes odors is formaldehyde. They use some of that in their Copaltite product. So we wanted to test for that, as well as a few other pollutants that we knew were used in their production. We wanted to identify any possible byproducts from the process and measure those emissions. So this process, this facility has been there since the 1930s. Like I said, a lot of the chemistry of this reaction that makes the sealants that they produce, we're just not as sure what types of things they could produce. So we wanted to really be as inclusive as possible in our sampling to see what possible things could be coming out, that the facility might not even be aware of. So that was something we tried to do in our sampling process to be as inclusive as possible. 3, we wanted to identify the health risks to the community associated with that facility. We know it's been there for a long time. And because of the unique location of this facility within the community, we really wanted to get a sense of how much of the pollutants from the facility are coming out into the community. And particularly for that propyl type product that they produce that has some formaldehyde in it, we wanted to see what the impacts of that are on the community. And finally, we wanted to make sure we're capturing the worst case scenario of the emissions from the facility. So on the worst day, what's coming out and how is that impacting the folks around the facility. So we went out with our contractor, Tetra Tech. Some of you who live nearby may have seen some of our folks out there by the facility. We did the first sampling event we did on July 14th, 2022. And that was when the facility was producing the copal type product. This is the one that has some amount of formaldehyde in it, as I said before. Like I said, we wanted to do a little bit more with this copal type product. So we did do some community exposure sampling. Those are marked on the image here. This figure shows in pink. So you can see the facility here on Capitol Ave Northeast and Fenwick Street Northeast. We did 4 community exposure sampling locations out in the community, which you can see here. We also did some sampling on the production floor. This was just to get a sense of inside the facility, what are the pollutants and how much is in the facility. And then we also did the exhaust ports. So you can actually see those on here where the exhaust ports are 1, 2, and 3 that we sampled to see what was coming out. So on August 1st, we did sampling for the NEPSEAL product. And like I said, it didn't have that formaldehyde. It is not part of the batch recipe. So we were not as concerned with the community exposure monitoring for this one. So at this point, we haven't done community exposure sampling while they're producing NEPSEAL. So that's something that we're considering, going back and sampling for next. So this should just give you a sense of sort of where the locations of where we did the sampling. So right now we are still reviewing the results with our contractor, Tetra Tech. We have engaged our toxicologists to better understand some of the health risks associated with this facility. So I'll just say, like I said, we were trying to be really inclusive of all of the possible pollutants and anything that could be impacting the facility. So from those 2 days of sampling, we collected a lot of data, and we're still trying to get a handle of what the impacts of those results are. So we're looking at some of the different health-based standards that we should be comparing those results to. And we're also trying to parse out, we did sampling on 1 day in specific locations for each product. So we're trying to parse out what are the impacts of other pollution sources in the area. So for example, what comes from, cars and traffic that's going through the facility. And, there are other sources in the area as well that we're looking at. So we're focusing on trying to get a thorough review of understanding all of those results. I will note that, based on our preliminary review, we didn't see anything that jumped out as particularly concerning, but, we still want to complete a really thorough review to understand what's impacting the community. So I know this isn't, obviously we have not completed our results, our analysis. After we complete our analysis, we do want to make sure we're being as transparent as possible and keeping everyone up to date on what we're doing. So we're planning to hold a public meeting to present those sampling results once they're final. So, we have a list of stakeholders that we know have been interested in this facility. So if you're interested in being included on that meeting that we follow up with, please put your email address in the chat and I'll make sure that we include you on our list. We're also going to distribute flyers once we get a better understanding of the impacts of the facility to give a little bit more information to the community on that facility. I will also just note that we've gotten some questions of, since DOE is already aware of this facility, do we need to even report it? And I will just say that, if there are specific days where, you might notice, on Tuesday, the facility smells really bad, for example, please go ahead and submit a service request in 311 to us, under general air quality concerns, just because it'll be really helpful to us in making sure that we've captured the worst case scenario of emissions from that facility. We want to make sure that we're using all the information we have available to us. So that's what I have for an update now. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure. So before we move to public questions, we'll go with commissioner questions. And if you don't mind, if you could stop sharing your screen and just drop your contact information in the chat so that everyone can contact you. We'll start with commissioner questions, then we'll move to questions from the public. If you all don't mind, I have a quick question, which is, it sounds like Commissioner Rhodes alerted DOE to the existence of the plant. And so that leads me to some questions about whether they're properly permitted or what happened that we missed the whole facility. So is there any information that you can provide about whether they're properly registered with the city at this point?
Sure. So I'll just say, unfortunately, it happens fairly commonly throughout the district that, when facilities go through the building permit process, so say, they're going, through DCRA, or now it's Department of Buildings, to get their permits for the building, they often, just neglect to go and get an air quality permit. We've seen it throughout the district, and it's an issue that we've been working with DCRA to make sure that, it's really a lot of different types of equipment that produces air pollution that require permits. So, it's not something unique to this facility, but it does happen here and there. So when we find out about these types of facilities, our job is, protecting public health. We work to get them permitted and see, what needs to be done to get them to be permitted.
Okay, and then as to this location, are they permitted now?
At this point, we have not issued an air quality permit. They currently do not have one. That was one of the objectives of this study that we did, to find out what the emissions, how much of the emissions coming out of the facility, and to help inform our permitting strategy.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Any other commissioners? Okay, we'll move to public questions. Rosie Stone, could Hannah or Ashanafi join this meeting again in November or December if the final analysis from monitoring is not finished yet?
Sure, we're happy to come back and present updates. I will say I don't know how much I'll have of an update to give while we're reviewing at this point, but we're happy to continue to communicate with the public.
Okay. All right. And then she continues, there was a fire at National Engineering a few years ago and the roof was replaced. At other sites, this level of modification has triggered the need to obtain an air permit. What can DOE share about the changes that were made after the fire?
We're looking into that at this point. I don't know that I can say much about how it would impact what type of permit it would need. We haven't at this point made decisions about what will be included in the permit or how the permitting will be impacted. So I can note that and we'll get back to you.
All right, thank you. And then just for my own edification, did you have any initial information that you could share about, parts per million at the various locations where you measured for, any toxins?
Yeah, so like I showed that map of all the different locations we did. We, at each of those locations, sampled for, well, I think over 30 about pollutants that we were searching for. So we have a lot of data, like I said, which, we do want to share with everyone. Right now, our contractor is kind of going through and putting it at one QAing and make sure everything's, accurate. And then we can put in a format that is going to make the most sense to everyone, as opposed to just giving you all.
If you could share that data with us as soon as possible, I know we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, so that's all we have for you this evening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. a good one.
All right. And then let's find out, do we have anyone here from the Office of Planning in regards to the Ivy City Small Area Plan? I have Valicia Wilson listed on the agenda.
Yes, I am here. Sorry, turn on my camera.
And do you prefer your Jessica Williams?
Oh no, that's weird that that name is coming up on mine because I'm Valicia. Hold on.
Okay, all right, we can update that. Do you need to share your screen with us?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is actually, I don't know if Commissioner Rhodes had the opportunity to update the agenda. This is a two-part presentation. We have two related projects that are happening at the same time. And so what I'd actually like to do, given that this is a full 5D meeting, is let my colleagues go first, who would work on the New York Avenue project. That'll contextualize what I'm talking about. So I'd actually like to pass the mic to Rebecca.
All right, and Rebecca, let me
And
see if I
actually-
can find you. Schwartzman.
Yes, that's me.
And I think that one of our teammates is missing from the
And then,
panel.
Ms. Schwartzman, do you need to share your screen with us?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right.
So-
And you said you mentioned another colleague, John
it's
Stokes.
Nope, it's Wilson Oliver.
I think I'm also listed as Jessica.
That is so weird.
Okay, so many Jessicas.
Thank you.
Let's see if I can find another Jessica. Okay, no, now you're Wilson Oliver. Okay, and then do you need to share your screen?
Rebecca, can you share your screen?
Yeah, it should come up now.
All right, so feel free to get started whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Thank you everyone for allowing us to speak with you this evening. My name is Will Oliver, and I am a community planner with the DC Office of Planning, and I'm joined by my colleague, Rebecca. Rebecca, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Rebecca Schwartzman. I'm also a planner alongside Will. And I guess I won't add a whole lot more, and I'll let Will take it away.
Thanks. Can we get the next slide, please? So we're here to talk to you today to talk about the New York Avenue Vision Framework, and also to provide some context for Felicia and Jessica to talk about the Ivy City Small Area Plan. So before we kind of get into the Ivy City Small Area Plan, to just talking about the Vision Framework, it's a strategic document that will present a shared vision for the New York Avenue Northeast Corridor and identify key actions that are needed as the corridor redevelops over the next 10 to 20 years. This planning process is focused on land use policy along the corridor from Florida Avenue Southeast to South Dakota, which runs about 3 miles. As you can see from this map on this slide, our primary focus area is the corridor itself. And our study area also includes the neighboring areas of Ivy City, Brentwood, and Langdon. And the Office of Planning is conducting this work now because the district's land use policy for this corridor was updated as a part of the district's comprehensive plan amendment that was adopted by council in late 2021. And as it relates to the Ivy City Small Area Plan, the Vision Framework has more of a land use focus. And as you'll hear from our colleagues, the Small Area Plan has more of a community strengthening focus. Can we get the next slide, please? So the goals for this project, there's 4 overarching goals. So the first one is to advance racial equity, which includes acknowledging the legacy of racism in planning, leveraging the comp plan's racial equity guidance, breaking down data by race and ethnicity to the smallest geographies possible, and establishing a transparent community engagement process that starts with acknowledging and listening to diverse voices from communities surrounding the New York Avenue corridor and seeking to expand opportunities for participation. We also want to unlock the corridor's potential to add affordable housing and good jobs. These changes were made, these This goal includes the changes that were made as a part of the comprehensive plan to increase affordable housing and improve residents' access to jobs and services. Third, we want to increase resilience to environmental shocks and stressors. So for shocks, you can think of them as things that happen suddenly, such as like flooding, and stressors are things that happen frequently over time, such as, you know, housing affordability, poverty, things like that. And then lastly, we want to establish a forward-looking approach to production, distribution, and repair land uses that is both equitable and economically sound. PDR, you can think of that as essentially industrial uses, so like warehouses and those types of like production facilities. And I'll pass it over to Rebecca.
Thanks, Will. So I've been focused mostly on the community engagement, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But on this slide, it has the timeline from when we started over the summer, documenting the existing conditions on New York Avenue. And then the public workshops that we started at the end of August when we held our kickoff meeting with the community. And within that kind of big bucket of public workshops and other community engagement, we've had several walking tours with community members from the corridor, which is about 3 miles long. So there are many neighborhoods and many residents that we've been trying to reach since the summer. And you'll also see on here, we're doing some amount of analysis for development potential and infrastructure. And we're pulling a lot of the information that we've learned and also the feedback that we've received from community members into a draft of recommendations. So we're just now starting to develop that, and we'll be sharing it with the public, and there will be opportunities to weigh in further. So it's going to take a while, and we're still pretty early on in the process. And I'm going to take us to from the engagement that we've done. So the community meetings that we've held, the walking tours that we've done, kind of pop-up events, and coming to meetings like this, in addition to emails and other kind of online feedback that we've received. A lot of the comments have been focused on things like housing, transportation, jobs and commerce, and general comments about how the environment feels, looks, tastes, all that. So the quotes that you see here are actual comments that we've received in the various forums that we've either hosted or been a part of. And I'll just, I guess I'll read them really quickly for folks that are on the phone. We want housing that actually is affordable, not just to those that have the means. Even though public transportation isn't a main focus for this project, it will be important for achieving the goals. Often there is an idea for good paying jobs, but the implementation falls flat. And then the last one is, it is hard to feel clean when you're on that stretch of road with all the heat and exhaust from traffic sticking to your skin. So for what's coming next, we're likely going to be having another public meeting, but it's not yet scheduled. But once it is, we'll be announcing it. The project's website is the best place to learn about what's happening and other information that we're putting out there. We'll be present at the Ivy City Day, which our colleagues will talk about soon. And yeah, we'll just keep announcing as new opportunities become available. Thank you.
Okay, and so let's go ahead, and since you all are colleagues, let's hear from your colleagues.
Okay. And I'll get started. The actual Jessica Williams is somewhere in the audience. So I don't know if she can get, if you want to raise your hands, you can get in here and introduce yourself.
Yeah, if you will raise your hand, that will be very helpful.
And in the meantime, I will share my screen.
The real Jessica Williams could please stand up. Okay, and then I believe Jessica has rejoined us. So please feel free to get started whenever you're ready.
Okay, awesome. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Valecia Wilson. That's Valecia Wilson. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jessica, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Jessica Williams. I'm a community planner with Office of Planning on the Neighborhood Planning Division. So I will be working with Valecia on our Ivy City Small Area Plan.
Thank you. So we are working on the Ivy City Small Area Plan, also known as the Ivy City SAP or SAP. The boundaries for this plan are on your screen now for those of you who are on the phone. It's what we tend to think of as Ivy City, bounded by New York Avenue, West Virginia Avenue, Mount Olivet, and Cochrane Street. So we do include all of the residential areas in Ivy City, as well as the commercial, the new commercial, new residential, and older industrial areas. And the Amtrak, to further get everyone in kind of a visual map, if you can't see the screen, the area is bounded by the Amtrak maintenance facility and rail yard to the north, Gallaudet University southwest, and then the historic Mount Olivet Cemetery to the southeast. The purpose of the small area plan is to, one, align with the New York Avenue framework, which you've just learned about. That will take a larger look at the New York Avenue corridor. However, the small area plan will really drill down on neighborhood level concerns. We have been working with the community since the spring. And so some of these concerns that we've heard and will be moving forward to address our housing. We want to make sure that we're supporting affordable housing production and mitigating the displacement of longtime residents. We know that's a real concern for folks across the district and particularly in Ivy City. We are especially concerned with health and resiliency. We want to make sure that our recommendations are actually improving the health outcomes and are strengthening the community's resilience to climate impacts. We understand that it's a very warm community because there's so much paving. There's a heat island effect, which happens when there aren't enough trees or green space, grass, and that kind of natural infrastructure to cool down the area. Of course, doesn't help that we have all of the industrial areas around, particularly those that are of concern, which DOEE spoke to earlier. Air quality and things like that. So those are all things that we'll be looking at in this plan. Next, we'll be looking at community experience. What this means that we want to improve the quality of the public realm. Basically, anything you experience when you step outside, all of the space between buildings, your roadways, your sidewalks, parks, all of that make up the public realm. And we are very interested in creating a safer and more accessible neighborhood for everyone, no matter the age, ability. And we're also interested in improving recreational opportunities. So one of the major components of this plan will be to begin strategizing about the redesign of the Lewis Crow Park. Many of you will be familiar with the park. There are a lot of safety issues. It's not as lovely as it could be as a public space. And so that will be a major goal for this plan. The last piece is economic development. There has been investment in the community, and that investment hasn't been able to touch everyone. So we want to work on creating opportunities for accessible and well-paying jobs for folks in the community. Also figure out a way to address kind of the high turnover of larger businesses along the corridor. So that's something we'll be working very closely with the New York Avenue team to address. Throughout this process, there will be lots of opportunity for engagement. There have already been a number of opportunities. So we started working with the community, Commissioner Rhodes, some other commissioners and neighborhood partners by doing community walks. I'll share about that in just a moment. We have started the email and in-person engagement. So some of you may have gotten an email about our upcoming Ivy City Day, which will happen on October 22nd. So this fall and winter, that's part of our engagement push. We've started focus groups with the business community and residents. Some of you may have been a part of that. And we are also developing a focus group for youth because youth are a major part of any community, and especially the Ivy City community. And so, and they are the future stewards of the neighborhood. And so it's important that we get their feedback, and their hopes and dreams are incorporated into this plan as well. Through the winter and the spring, we will have more opportunities for engagement, including a public life study, which is an opportunity for not just us, but community volunteers to really, take up space on the sidewalk and observe how people are using the sidewalk. People are moving across the street and up and down the street. It's an opportunity for us to work together to discover where we need safety interventions. Maybe there are places where people pause a lot, on their walk where there's no bench, and that's something that we can recommend. So that will be the public life study. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will have a design charrette for Lewis Crow Park. And so those are all opportunities, very specific opportunities for you all to engage. But throughout all of this, we'll be doing what we're doing right now, which is coming to meetings where you all are already gathered. We know that evening meetings are a lot, weekend meetings are a lot. When we do have them, we want them to be fun. And when they're not that fun, we want to make sure that we're not giving you another meeting. So that's why we're here now. And I'll let Jessica talk a bit about our community tours and some of the things that we heard from our walking tours.
Yeah, thanks, Felicia. So back in about March, so earlier this year, we hosted several walking tours, and really the purpose of that was to just get out into the community, to meet with some residents, have them show us around the Ivy City neighborhood and point out some things that were challenges, some things that were assets in the community, things that they really love about the community. And so this slide here just talks a bit about some of the things that we saw, or shows photos of some of the things that we saw, including existing housing, some new housing development, basketball court. I'm sorry, I just got a new puppy and he's tripping out right now. But yeah, we saw the basketball court at the Carmel School site, as well as Lewis Crow Park. And we wanted to just highlight here, not only the street conditions along Fairview Avenue, but also there's a mural. So I think there's definitely some assets that we wanted to highlight in the Ivy City neighborhood, but also ensure that we were able to hear from residents firsthand about some of the things that they view as challenges in the neighborhood.
Thanks, Jessica. So our next big event and opportunity we're very excited about is Ivy City Planning Day. This is our big community kickoff for the small area plan. It is Saturday, October 22nd, and it's from 12 to 3. You can come whenever you want, but we will have food, and so it's best to get there early. But we will be having this right at the Carmel School on the blacktop at the play space there. So we will have, it's completely free. You just come, bring your elders, bring your kids. We'll have activities, games, we'll have music. I mentioned we'll have refreshments as well, and giveaways. And the purpose of this event is to, one, give you an opportunity to have fun in a public space that is not often activated this way. But we also want to provide an opportunity to learn more about the small area plan. We've been doing a lot of analysis, just like the New York Avenue team over the past few months. And so we want to not only share that, but make sure that what we're understanding is what you all are experiencing in the community. So we will have plenty of permanent markers for you to kind of mark up our data, give us feedback, tell us what we're missing. Because this plan, we're really just the tools, but this is really the Ivy City community's plan. And so we would love to have you all, and I would like to actually send this flyer out so that all of you can have it. So if it's all right, I'll send it to the ANC to share. And so you don't have to just be a resident to attend. The Ivy City touches a lot of communities. People work here, people have family here, people spend a lot of time here. And so that feedback is important. And if you're interested in vending, there's a form for that as well on the website, which I have linked in the chat. And that website is publicinput.com/Ivy City SAP. So we will also have a number of interagency partners who will be at the event. So there are a lot of challenges in the community, and also you may have some things you want to talk to someone about, whether you're having issues accessing food, whether you want to share something you've observed with DOEE. The Department of Parks and Rec will be there, the Department of Transportation, Department of Energy and Environment. We'll have HCMA there, who deals with any kind of emergencies, emergency preparation, flooding, that kind of thing. Our Food Policy Council representative will be available. The Department of Housing and Community Development will be available. They'll be bringing information about some of the programs that are most critical to Ivy City residents around housing. We have a lot of seniors, and we want to make sure that they have access to information from the Department of Aging and Community Livability. The DC Developmental Disabilities Council will be represented there. DC Health will be represented there, both as a representative to talk about some of the programs, talk about some of the health analysis that we'll be doing as part of the small area plan, but also in the capacity of a vaccination team. So if you haven't been vaccinated, you need to get your booster, you can definitely come and do that for free right at this event. So the next steps for us, is really important, is finalizing our youth focus group. Of course, the planning and execution of Ivy City Planning Day. We will be onboarding our consultants. There's a lot to analyze and a lot to develop for this plan. And so we need a lot of hands on deck. So we'll be onboarding our consultants through the winter. And then we'll be scheduling winter meetings. So if you want us to come to your meeting, my email address will be right here on the screen in just a moment. Please invite us. We will try to be there, move some things around to be available to make sure that you're getting the information you need from us. So the next steps for you would be to sign up on the project webpage. Again, that's publicinput.com/Ivy City SAP. Share information about Ivy City Day, plan to meet your friends, plan to meet your friends' kids, and come have some food, dance, play. We'll have surveys, and they'll be at the event, and they'll also be online. So any survey that's at the event will be online. So even if you are not able to join us, you can still provide your input. And then the most important thing is to remember that your experiences and knowledge of your community is critical to this planning process. Again, this isn't my plan. It's not Jessica's plan. This is the community's plan. And that is really central to how we are approaching this effort. And that may feel a little bit different than how we often do things as a government, but we're working hard to make sure that everyone is included in this process and that it really is representative of you all. And so again, contact information, the best email address is ivycitysap@dc.gov. But I can also be reached at Valecia Wilson, that's VALECIA.WILSON @dc.gov. And our phone number is 202-442-7600. And we can take any questions.
All right, thank you so much for that. And if you don't mind, if you could drop your contact information into the chat.
Absolutely.
So we can get back to our normal screen and see everyone. So first up, again, we'll take questions from the commissioners, and then we'll move to public questions. So any questions or comments from commissioners?
Just a quick question for me. In terms of the Ivy City Day, is that, just to remind me here, is that an opportunity for residents to engage some of you all, or is this more of a family function?
It's all of the above. We're hiding the engagement in the family fun and food, but yes, we will have plenty of surveys, and then our full team will be available to answer questions. We'll have boards up that really show all the analysis that we have. So if there's something that sounds completely crazy, we know that not everybody took the census, for example, in our last go round. So if there's things that just sound completely nuts, you can just have us on the shoulder and say, hey, this doesn't really sound right. Maybe we can do some surveying to really truth this. So that's the kind of engagement that we're going to be looking for.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Any other commissioner questions or comments? Okay, so let's move to members of the public. Kevin Horgan, will this plan call out in clear terms what unit size mix the district needs to achieve in Ivy City? If the district needs more family size housing, then this plan needs to put that in writing in very clear terms. Developers need to understand before they spend a lot of time and money on plans, what they should be designing. I sit on the ANC zoning committee, and I've noticed that nearly all recent large projects have few to no family size units. When there are any, they're expensive penthouse units, and we need OP to support and promote family size units, which support longer term residents instead of studio apartments.
Yeah, we agree. That's something that we will be as part of our analysis, it's figuring out who is in Ivy City. So again, that's why it's really important to make sure that the information that we have from census and everything is really making sense to everyone's experience. Because having the right information helps us make the right recommendations. Generally, since the last comprehensive plan, which was just approved in the last couple of years, we do understand the need for more family size housing. And so that's something that we definitely are already supporting in writing in some of our other plans. So now it's Ivy City's turn to have a plan of its own that has that language and any other language around housing.
And I just think overall, just to kind of piggyback off of Kevin's comment, if we know that the majority of growth in the city is now, and for the past few years has been natural growth, which means people passing away and babies being born, I'm doing my part over here, contributing to the babies being born portion. But if we know that that's where the growth is happening for us in terms of population and not adults moving in, from the Midwest and nearby southern states anymore, then I think it behooves us to incorporate that type of language wherever we can, in small area plans, and some of this, housing policy conversation that we're having in terms of Black home ownership as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. And then Commissioner, I'm going to come right back to you because I promised the public they had next. So we have one question or comment from Jessica Williams. She says, I don't have access to the chat, but DC Food Policy Council will be at Ivy City Day as mentioned. And then she left us the link for dcfoodpolicy.org. So thank you for that. And then Commissioner Elmore.
Hi, Ms. Wilson. I have some concerns, and please don't take it personal. Not that it's an offense. It's not a frustration to you, but to your office in general. As constituents, as a born and raised Washingtonian, I'm native here, and I've watched the demographic and the geological areas change. I keep hearing over and over again that we need more family housing. We need the developers to stop coming in, making these big buildings, which just cater to, those Capitol Hill types or the one bedroom types. And we as constituents and natives, we have argued, we have wrote our mayors, we have petitioned, and yet these big ticket developers come in with their dollars and throw it around, and here come another high rise. And I do agree with what you're saying. I do hear you. However, how do we know that this new initiative is not going to be the same thing? It's just like pretty much all words where another big building may eventually go up, with 1-bedroom apartments, and there's no space for additional racial equity housing in the area because everything is considered a high rise with cost of living that's astronomical.
That's a really great question. And I'm glad you asked, because I think that it kind of gets at the larger implementation piece. So effectively a plan there, it's a package of words that guides how we invest, how our legislature makes new policies, where we put our money. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that are really clear is that the plan is that's the vision that outlines what we want to see. And then behind that, we have our agency partners that are working towards the end you're talking about, but also we need, everyone really beating down the door of our elected officials and that kind of thing to make sure that there are the resources to make that vision a reality. So I think implementation and the ANCs, your votes, all of that is going to help push that agenda further so that we can achieve that. One of the challenges, I think, not just in DC, but across the board, is that to the extent that developers thinks or believe that it's beneficial to build that kind of housing, that's what will be built. And so that means that we need incentives for different types of housing. And that's where, harassing our elected officials, I'm a DC resident also, that's where all of that comes in. And I'm in my office and the lights just went out, so it doesn't know that I'm still here. So I'm sorry about that. So that's where it really becomes a team effort to get these things implemented.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. And then this is my last comment on this, but it really does help us a lot as ANCs to have that written in the various documents, just because, we have that as a policy for 5D that we all agree on as commissioners. And we work with developers to try to get them to incorporate more family-sized housing. The problem then becomes when they go around us to, the zoning commission, or they go to BZA, and there's no real policy supporting us on that. And there have been some recent changes to those boards, which, we're losing out some of our native Washingtonian voices that spoke up for a lot of those types of policies. And now we're starting to see ourselves lose cases that we wouldn't have lost before based on exactly that issue. And just kind of that community knowledge and that background knowledge is no longer there. And we have so many, federal seats, that are reserved on those commissions as well. So they're really looking to the people who are supposed to be representing DC on those commissions to have that policy awareness. And so I think that that's just more important now than it has been in the past.
No, and that makes a lot of sense, and it's actually reflective of the conversations we've been having internally between agencies. As you all know that are involved in these processes, there are several agencies at a time that will touch a development before it's, a shovel is put into the ground. And so, making sure that all of our policies are aligned, that the zoning is aligned. So for some agencies, like if it's not in the zoning, they can't enforce it. And so just making sure that we kind of all are aligned is a major part of any planning process. And it's one of the reasons why we are developing out a robust interagency working group, which includes a lot of the folks that are going to be actually all of the folks that are going to be at our Ivy City Day and a few others. So, that coordination is super important. You're absolutely right.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Next up on our agenda, we have DGS to discuss Spingarn High School and the planning update there. So John Stokes, I see you're with us this evening. Do you need to share your screen?
So there are we brought a team of folks to this meeting this evening. So there should be a couple of folks who have raised their hands to share. I'm going to be speaking with BGS. We have the Department of Employment Services on the line with us tonight, and we have our architects as well. So there are quite a few folks who need to be elevated to presenter. And while they're raising their hands and while you're elevating them, I guess I will just start by saying again, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for inviting us, especially Commissioner Blacknell, who has become my best friend of the last couple of months. She and I talk. We probably talk at least once or twice a week for the last couple of months. So, Commissioner, it's finally good to meet you. And again, inviting us to this meeting this evening. I'm John Stokes, and I'm the Associate Director, External Affairs for the DC Department of General Services. The Department of General Services, we build, maintain, and sustain over 840 municipal buildings. So that includes that. So we are the implementation agency. What we do is, again, we build, maintain these facilities, but we take our marching orders from our client agencies. So DGS, we help the client agency decide, real estate spaces. They tell us what they want, and then we go about the business of trying to make sure that our client agency's dreams become a reality. This evening, what you will hear from is one of our clients, and that is the Department of Employment Services, the DCIA branch of this, DC Infrastructure Academy, which will be going into, we all know that Spingarn has been long toe down from the flow down, neglected, and we are happy to announce again that that building will come alive. We are very focused on the history of Spingarn. And so this evening, what you'll be going through is a journey of what DCIA is, the programs that they have. You will see kind of the design for the space at Spingarn for DCIA. And then DGS, we will come up the rear and tell you about some timelines. So let's go to the next slide. So again, some of the presenters this evening will be myself. Next up will be Arlen Harrell, Mohammed Jallas with DGS. You will hear from Robert Cooper from DGS, and you will hear from David Bell of Bell Architects, who is the architect of note for this particular project. And we're going to try to keep it breezy, nice and breezy and easy, because we were told we only had 8 minutes. So, so we had a whole big thing prepared, but we said, John, you only have 8 minutes and maybe 12 minutes with Q&A. So we're going to keep this thing rolling. So with that, I will hand it over to Arlen Harrell with DOES DCIA.
Hi, good evening. Again, my name is Arlen Harrell from the Department of Employment Services. I am the Deputy Chief of Innovation and Partnership, where I oversee the Office of Talent and Client Services, as well as the DC Infrastructure Academy. And I bring greetings on behalf of our director, Dr. Unique Morris-Hughes from the Department of Employment Services. I'd also like to introduce, for any questions later, Aaron Sisko, who's a Senior Program Manager on my team as well. We can go to the next slide. Just a little bit about DOES. The mission is Department of Employment Services is to connect district residents, job seekers, and employers to opportunities and resources that empower fair, safe, and effective working communities. And our vision for the Department of Employment Services is to provide comprehensive employment services to ensure a competitive workforce, full employment, lifelong learning, economic stability, and the highest quality of life for all district residents. Next slide. One of the things that Dr. Unique Morris-Hughes is very, very passionate about is the Vision Forward Plan, which was implemented under her leadership at the Department of Employment Services. And that really is about promoting the district's human capital, aligning workforce with education, which is something that the DC Infrastructure Academy is very, very, very excited to be doing, creating equity and access, achieving excellence in service delivery, to operate smart and effective systems, and to provide best-in-class customer service. Next slide. So just a little bit about the DC Infrastructure Academy. DCIA was launched in March of 2018 under the direction of Mayor Muriel Bowser for the express purpose of providing opportunities for education and careers in the infrastructure industry for district residents. DCIA was actually brought to the mayor, the idea was brought to the mayor by former City Administrator Rashad Young, from a program similar to this in other parts of the country, but there was no program specifically like the DC Infrastructure Academy that brought all the infrastructure careers under one roof. The idea was brought to launch DCIA in March of 2017 with a 2-year timeline, but Mayor Bowser came back to DCIA and said that she wanted DCIA to launch within 1 year. And so almost a year later to the day, DCIA opened its doors in March of 2018. Some of the programs that we offer at DCIA are information technology, our help desk program, our Quick Path to Energy, which is our SolarWorks program, our PEPCO program, and our new remodeled energy construction and utilities program, sponsored by Washington Gas. We also have our Quick Path to Transportation, which is our commercial driver's license program, which will also include automotive tech programs at the new Spin Garden location, and our a Quick Path to Construction, which is OSHA 1030 and flagger training and CPR training. Next slide. Some program updates. Since the launch of DCIA and the PEPCO program, 175 district residents and making up 10 cohorts have graduated from DCIA's PEPCO program with a 100% job offer rate. DCI recently rebranded our former Washington Gas program to our Energy Construction and Utilities program, which is now sponsored by Washington Gas, and we'll launch our first cohort in early January 2023. DCIA's training stipend was increased from $10 an hour to $16.10 an hour in July of this year. And DCIA has brought on 2 new program managers to oversee our enrollment and admissions and our utilities programs, including PEPCO, SolarWorks, DC, and the Energy Construction Utilities program. If you have any other additional questions or for more information about DCIA, please visit our website at dcia.dc.gov, and I will be around for any additional questions at the end.
I'm David Bell with Bell Architects, and we're very pleased to be involved with this project and take the vacant Spingarn High School and turn it into a vibrant adult education facility for DCIA. As part of that effort, we analyzed the site and we wanted to make sure that we respected the history and the activities that have happened at the high school as we develop the property for this new use. So you see on the screen here are diagrams to identify the floor plans and the roof plan of the existing building and areas that we think are important to honor. And those were the public spaces, the main lobby, the auditorium, and the gymnasium. They really were the heart of the high school as far as we can determine. And so we want to make sure that those spaces are respected and we feature those things and preserve them as we develop the rest of the building. The exterior is important, especially on the front and the 2 sides. And so we want to restore the building to its former glory. Next slide. So DCIA is not going to take over the entire building. So we've got them located on 3 levels on the north side of the building where the parking lot is nearest the schools, opposite the golf course and overlooking the golf course. So in order to accommodate all of the program, we're using a courtyard inside the north corner of the building and taking the boiler plant and turning that into an auto lab. And then we'll have outdoor work areas along the hillside behind the gymnasium and nearest the landscaped areas along that west side. And all of the classrooms and offices and other labs are fitting into the lower level, the first floor and the second floor. The south side of the building and the entire top floor right now are unprogrammed, and the auditorium and gymnasium are not planned to be occupied by the current tenant use. Next slide. We've analyzed the site and looked at some of the issues that we need to address to make it function. Some of those are related to dealing with stormwater and resiliency of the property, parking and making sure that we don't overload extra cars onto the site in the neighborhood, and looking at how we can provide universal accessibility to the building so that anybody, whether they're able or disabled, can use the building in the same way with a lot of respect. Next slide. So a lot of the program areas are identified here on the site. And you'll notice some numbers relating to the different uses. So number one is the street entrance. And we're proposing to come in from the sidewalk and go directly underneath the flagpole and the terrace between the monumental stairs and into the building so that everybody can enter directly from the street. On the south side, number two, that's where on the left, that's where we have handicap parking that allows people to park there and enter the building without surmounting stairs. The north side is the other two, and that's where the bulk of the parking is now, and where we would continue to keep parking at that location. Number 5 is where we have the proposed outdoor yards for the training for DCIA. And number 7, throughout the site are areas where we're addressing stormwater management so that we don't introduce flooding issues and we really take care of things properly for the entire campus. Number 6 is identifying ideas for loading and for access to the auto lab to allow for vehicles to access the site. So our focus is to maintain pedestrian access on the backside of the building for the neighborhood, but to introduce the ability for the building to become functional and allow for future growth within the building. Next slide. So here's an example of the front entrance where we're going to really focus on restoring the building, bringing back the monumental aspect of the building, but introducing entrances between the two monumental stairs that allow for not only DCIA, but other users of the building to enter. Next. On the north side, where we have the parking, the very low height boiler plant, we pop the top of that and then introduce areas there where we can do the auto lab, keeping the exterior of the main building, even keeping the existing smokestack. Next slide. And on the southeast corner, it will still retain its monumental character, and we will bring back the building to its former glory. We really need to focus on addressing a lot of deterioration and problems in the building. So we'll be restoring the brick masonry, the windows and doors, the slate roof, taking away a lot of the excess growth and making it a safe and secure building that allows it to become a better neighbor for the entire community. Next slide.
All right, we're going to hand it over to Robert Cooper.
Yes, I'm Robert Cooper. I'm DGS Project Manager. Next slide, please. Currently, where we are, the red vertical bar is a status bar. To date, we've conducted an environmental site assessment and a hazardous materials survey. We're currently working on the development of a community outreach plan. But we will continue to work with Commissioner Blacknell, as John mentioned, to keep everyone abreast of the progress of the project, as well as update the DGS website. And as part of the design, we're in schematic design. We've completed the concept design, and we are planning to issue for permit in the summer of '23. For the construction, we're currently we have a technical evaluation panel reviewing 5 proposals from 3 different companies to determine who the best contractor will be and make a recommendation. We're slated for substantial completion in the spring of FY24. Next slide, please. Next slide. That concludes our presentation. If there are any questions, we'll take them now. And if there are any questions after this presentation, you can contact Mr. Wayne Gore, DGS Community Engagement Specialist at wayne.gore@dc.gov, or you can reach him on, excuse me, 202-717-4228.
Thank you,
Well,
Rob.
thank you.
And we will put this presentation, we have a website built for this particular project on the DGS website, dgs.dc.gov. And we will be posting this and any and all community meetings regarding this project on that website for those who were unable to attend tonight's meeting.
All right, well, great. And we're happy to share video on YouTube. Well, ANC 5D has a YouTube channel, so feel free to post that publicly available video on your website as well.
Fantastic.
All right, well, thank you all so much for a very concise and informative presentation this evening. Per usual, we'll start with commissioner questions, and then we'll move to any questions from the public. So that should give you all an opportunity to type if you have anything to share with us. So commissioners, any questions or comments from you all?
Yes, I have
Go
a question for Mr. Bell. You know I'm gonna have questions.
I know it.
But Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Now, I like the plan, but I got a slight problem because we need two things in this area, okay? We need a library in this area. And I understand, I just heard you say that it's some extra space inside of that school, right?
Mhm. That's right.
Right, sir?
That's correct.
We need a library. Can you make it happen?
So I'll take David Bell off of the hot seat.
I know.
You know how we roll.
I need a library. Just as simple as that. I need a library. No. I need a library. I've been very patiently with y'all, okay? I then took off on my job and everything. We need a library. We need a recreation center. Now that auto land, that's okay, but you got the car bond there that's going to be doing stuff too, okay? We need a library and we need a recreation. Okay, that's all I'm asking.
So Commissioner, we are still, again, for purposes, and you are right, again, as David and everyone mentioned, that facility is not totally going to be used by DCIA. They're going to take up some of the real estate, but we're still trying to figure out what would those other spaces be used for. So we will take, this is the first you're telling me of this, so we will take that information back to public libraries. We will take that back to DPR and see where that goes. The folks on this call this evening, we can deliver that message, Commissioner. You have my word that we will deliver that message and let folks know that you have requested a library and a rec center. Again, not sure whether the libraries and the rec centers, what they will say about that space as a library or a rec center. But again, you have brought it to the table, Commissioner, and we will let folks know that.
Yes,
I want to back up Commissioner Blacknell really quickly.
That's right.
Because one of the things that we did have included in the Ready to Play plan for our area, just for some awareness for that conversation, was exactly that request that Commissioner Blacknell just outlined. And they were amenable to that. I think that plan, if it hasn't already wrapped up, it is wrapping up. Just with an eye to future growth in our area, with the potential redevelopment of Hechinger Mall, that's a whole new neighborhood worth of people that will be springing up, right next to a neighborhood that already doesn't have adequate recreation and library facilities. So I know that discussion did happen as part of the Ready to Play plan. So if you want to bring that up with them.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I got one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can y'all do something? This school has been vandalized. It's keep getting broke into, okay? Mr. Stokes, I know you hear me loud and clear. I didn't spend a lot of time off from my job going down there to that school because it's been vandalized. Can get some signs up, something to deter them from stop unwelling them doors and breaking out them windows?
So, Commissioner, yes, you and I have had extensive conversations on weekdays, weeknights, weekends regarding the vandalism to the facility. As we all know, that is a very, very, very large facility. And I'll just say ne'er-do-wells would like to sometimes use that as their own little playground. And so we have what we are committed to do. Chris Prince, who is with our PSD division, which is our public security division, is on. I'm not sure whether he's on right now, but he's definitely listening in. And what we're going to do, Commissioner, is we are working with our facilities maintenance division. We are going to print some metal signs, and we're going to plaster that facility with those signs. You've asked about those signs, and we are committed to getting signs, no trespassing signs, that will be plastered around that facility. In addition, what we will do is that at least once a week, we will do we have building managers that have, again, we have 840 facilities, so we have quite a bit of inventory, but we do have a building manager who has that as part of his territory, and at least once a week, he will drive by that facility, make sure that the windows are secure, the doors are secure, and if not, we will make sure that that's taken care of right away. Again, this is something that, because of the enormity of the size of the building, so we will do our part, and I have to commend you as the commissioner, because again, whenever you know there's something going wrong, you will call me and text me right away.
I sure enough will.
It's proven. That's how we became fast friends here. So, you know, it is going to have to be, we're just going to really have to work together, continue to work together until we actually start construction on that facility. But again, we promise, you have my word, that we're going to get some signs, and we're going to do a drive-by once a week. And if any of the community hears anything, they should reach out to us. And as you can tell, when you reach out to us, even a couple of Sunday afternoons, you reached out to me.
Oh, yes, I have.
Within a couple of hours, our facilities maintenance crew has gone out, reboarded up that facility, and cleaned it up. And we will continue to do so.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
I know you are.
and you should know me by now. I'm gonna hold you to it.
All right, well, thank you. I think Commissioner Salcedo Guzman, we see your hand next. And then we'll follow up with any other commissioners and go to the public.
Thanks, Commissioner. So I guess I have two questions here. Since the presentation shared that DCIA is using practically half the space, about so, what is the remainder slated for at this time, and how was it determined that DCIA would get half this space when the community itself is asking for the return of a library or recreation for the youth, which the land was practically used for in the past? Commissioner Blacknell's alumni from the high school, I believe. So how is this determined at this point?
So what I will answer as far as what I know from the DGS standpoint, which is we hold portfolio. Again, we hold the 840 facilities across the city. We do not make the determination about how the space is used. We will say, hey, we have a client. The client has a particular need or use, and these are some spaces that are available. So I don't have the answer for you this evening about, you know, how it came to be to say, okay, fine. But from what I can tell, we had space in that particular location for what the needs were for our client agency, and that's how that was done. Again, there might be other situations or other answers to that as far as why it's not a rec center, why it's not a school, or why it's, but that's where that's where we're at right now.
Can
And
you
I
get
think
is it possible to get a more clear answer? Just because we need to understand how these decisions are made, since again the community is asking for something, and not that DCIA has needs that we don't need. Yes, this is great that it's coming out to South Ward 5. We're not against that. Us as commissioners and residents want to know how these decisions are being made, because they're going to affect us at the end of the day. So it just be nice if we can get a more clear answer on that question particularly.
Okay.
Excuse me, Commissioner Salvador, I do agree with you. Mr. Stokes, I also agree with him too. No harm against you and everything, but they should have came and asked the community and us as the ANC commissioners before they made a decision what's going to be inside of that school. I've been an ANC commissioner since 2010, and those two things, that's all I'm asking for. It's a library and a recreation center. And I feel that carpenters, licensors are in this area. We should be able to get that.
And I'll just add a little bit of background just based on some things that I've read about other plans for our area. There was a green infrastructure plan, which I think might have contributed to somewhat to this idea. And I want to say, and Commissioner Blacknell, you're probably more familiar with those dates than I am, but that's been at least a decade ago. And that was originally slated for the old smokestack site at Langston Terrace.
Yes.
So I think that is probably where some of this idea about on-site job training came from, and just seeing that some of the feedback for the smokestack site was about it not being large enough of a facility. And so I think that might be, just based on my reading of that, this is me guessing, but that might be something worth looking into as kind of the origin of, where that idea came from.
You talking about the old Pepco plant?
Yeah, the old Pepco plant.
Yeah, and I've been told over and over again, that's part of housing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think that's where that job training idea came from. But let us move forward. If we have any other commissioner questions, I'll take those now. And then Commissioner Saucedo Guzman, I'm going to ask for your help. If you could read out the public questions. I'm having a sore throat at the moment.
Skip Keats, per DCIA, noticed that while accessibility was mentioned in access, it was not mentioned in the instruction schema. Do plans exist to incorporate teachings about physical and digital accessibility into the DCIA curriculum? And I like that library idea.
So I can take that question. Just for clarity, so I'm assuming they're asking, is there accessibility that's a part of how we do our curriculum? And there is accessibility for those with physical limitations in our curriculum. All of our DOES and DCIA programs have that. Specifically around IT, we will make accommodations for any person that comes to the DCIA that meets our minimum qualifications, which are very, very minimum for most district residents. As far as a specific curriculum based around physical disabilities, I just want to make sure I'm answering the question appropriately. Physical disabilities in the curriculum that is for you, is this, so is the question, whoever's asking the question, can you maybe clarify a little bit on that part? Are you asking if we provide training for?
They're specifying the teaching about it for incorporation into tasks. Still not clear.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I work in that field, and I think the question
Okay.
is whether or not you're teaching IT programs in a way that also educates people about accessibility for people who have disabilities when you're, actually building a website or actually building or creating software.
Okay, so our curriculum is based as CompTIA and CompTIA Plus training, and all of our providers should be able to teach that curriculum to any resident. I do not know if there is a particular curriculum that is based around providing that specific type of training for individuals with disabilities. But that's something that we can definitely look into. But I will also say for IT, that is, I'm glad that you mentioned IT. IT will not be moving to Spingarn. That is a training that is currently offered at our Wilkinson location, and that will be moving to a different DCIA location. For clarity, DCIA is going to be split into 2 campuses when we make this move. And so the other campus will be at Reunion Square in Ward 8. And that will be where we will be doing IT and hospitality training.
Okay, when y'all get everything together, I would like to get a copy of what type of programs are going into Spingarn, and I would like to see something for the people in this area that had disability.
So just for clarity, every program that I mentioned, aside from our IT, will be at Spingarn.
Okay, for disability too, because we do have some, disability constituents in this area too.
Yes, I think that we have already shown our commitment to those with physical disabilities and disabilities, with even the design of the new entrance to the building based around DCIA. I think that we're showing our commitment there. Absolutely.
And Mr. Harrell, can you confirm and remind us what age groups usually DCIA is working with?
So for DCIA, it must be over the age of 18. There's no top restriction there.
Got it. Thank you. And then just some final comments from some of the folks on the call on today's meeting. Just reaffirming the library and recreation center idea. Here's one from an alumni of Spingarn. As a member of the Spingarn alumni group, we appreciate the effort to restore it to its prior glory to an extent. However, we are concerned about the outreach to the alumni community to consider ways to memorialize the schools and school's historic legacy, as well as its position as part of the community. This would include a library, wellness center, access to community use, including senior services. We also have concern about the future projected use of the entire building. Can y'all speak on that in terms of alumni concerns?
I'll start by saying, first of all, thank you, alumni. Your voices have been heard and through the commissioner loud and clear over the last couple of months and year, actually. How we memorialize, I think that's a good question. We actually had some conversations about whether, what that looks like as far as actually physical things to the building. And I think we're going to have a larger conversation. Again, what we know for right now is that DCIA is going in there with their programming, but again, the other uses of the space, from what I know, have not been predetermined as of yet. And so I think there's absolutely still there's room for discussion about what that could possibly look like. So I'd be interested to hear some additional ideas, a little more, some solid ideas around what the alumni have in mind, and then let's consider and let's have a conversation about it.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
So again, this presentation, and again, thank you, Commissioner, for letting us know that we can you have it on YouTube as well. We will post this. Again, Wayne Gore's information is on this presentation. He might be on, he's probably on this call somewhere. He does a lot of our community engagement meetings for DTS. And we like to kind of keep it concise and succinct, so you can reach out to Wayne. Also, again, you have a very good advocate in Commissioner Blacknell. And if you want to make sure you follow up with Commissioner Blacknell, she has all of my numbers and she has no problems in letting me know how she feels. And so that has worked out very well for us thus far, is making sure that she's kind of a conduit, making sure that we talk, make sure that the folks like the alumni were on this call tonight. So we work hand in hand to make sure that the community is aware of these meetings and what's going on. This won't be our last community meeting by no stretch of the imagination. We will have meetings and we will definitely be letting folks know when those meetings occur.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
On behalf of my director, I forgot to mention my director, Keith A. Anderson. I want to say thank you for inviting us to this meeting this evening.
All right, well, thank you so much, and you're welcome back anytime. I'm sure we'll definitely have plenty of additional feedback.
Thank you.
I'll be calling you by the end of the week, Mr. Stokes.
You may call me tonight. I don't know.
All right, so the next commission action and final action from the commission on our agenda is just the consent calendar item. Just a quick refresher for everyone, the consent calendar just gives us an opportunity to vote up or down very quickly on non-controversial items. And so I will turn this over. I believe this is your letter, Commissioner Cobb. So I'll turn this over to you to explain what's going on.
Thanks, Commissioner Moore. This is a letter I had previously introduced a few months ago, back at the beginning of the summer. There is an old Pepco substation in the Triangle Lot Alley between Trinidad Avenue, Penn Street, and Owen Place. And right now, Pepco is demolishing it in preparation to sell it to somebody. And originally, I proposed this a few months ago, but then I tabled the letter because Pepco told me they were actually delaying the project. Well, demolition has begun this week. I can look out my back window and see it happening. So this is finally taking place. This letter simply asks that Pepco sell the lot to the DC government, to DGS specifically, so that they can turn it into some sort of community space, whether that's Green Faith or a solar farm or something like that. What happens after the sale is a completely separate process, which involves different people. So for right now, this letter just asks Pepco to sell the lot to the district government so we can get the ball rolling on a project like that.
All right. So we'll go ahead and put a motion on the floor. I move that we accept the consent calendar items as presented. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it. So that's approved. And then next up is my favorite part of the agenda, community feedback and questions. So this is your time to shine. If you have any questions that were just off topic from anything we discussed tonight, but there's still, relevant concerns to our neighborhood, feel free to drop a question in the Q&A box. If you have any kind of community announcements, your church is hosting an event, your alumni association is having a meeting, whatever you're doing in the community, please use this as an opportunity to bring up those items. And so we'll give folks a minute or two to be able to type. You can also use the raise hand feature. I just want folks to be aware of that. All right, so Marian Bobo, you have the opportunity to speak if you want to just go ahead and unmute yourself. And I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
You did. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can.
Yes. I'm that alumni person who was asking a question. about including the Spingarn alumni group as well as community members in the planning. It sounds like a glorious first step, Ms. Bucknell. I know that you're very happy about all of that as far as restoring it to its past glory, but I'm concerned about the vacant spots and things that we don't know about. The empty spaces in that building, the fact, like the commissioner said, that it needs to be secure, the planning that needs to go on a little bit further to think about the other kinds of things that should be included, and to acknowledge the fact that we all know it's a historic site. And because of that, all of those kinds of things should be part and parcel of what's going on. I do see the fact that they're making that effort, but I didn't really know that I was going to speak. But I really do appreciate the fact that they are moving in that direction. And I want Spingarn's alumni group to be a part of it along with the community because it's important, very.
Well, thank you for that. We definitely appreciate those comments. And I know Commissioner Blacknell will be working very closely with the Alumni Association to make sure that you all stay informed.
As long as we can be a part of what they're doing in the planning sessions, that would be a major part for us because many of us do have some plans and objectives that we'd like to see carried out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next up, we do have a comment from Skip Keats. I am curious about what may be in store for the former medical clinic lot at 17th and I Street Northeast across from Heckinger Mall. So Skip, you're talking about the birthing center, and the birthing center did move up Bladensburg Road. So they're not technically in 5D. I think they're technically in 5C now. And we miss them because they were a fantastic neighbor. It is a private property. I have had some discussions with them about potential future plans, but nothing to report just yet. So we'll see, what comes of any potential development there. Okay. All right, that's all I see from the public at this time. I'm just going to check for raised hands very quickly again. Okay, and I don't see any new hands going up. So next up, we'll go ahead and move forward with commissioner reports. Commissioner for 5D01 was not able to join us this evening due to a family emergency. So first up, we'll hear from our commissioner from 5D02.
No exact updates from my end, other than just community updates from what was going on in the neighborhood. We had our Trinidad Day last month, which was a great success. Big shout out to Zachary Parker for allowing us to use his listserv to get the notice out for the event. We had some sitting council members attend, and we had a great turnout and cooperation from different government agencies. After that, I think the biggest news in our area was the recent acts of gun violence that were occurring. We were working with Cure the Streets to request ceasefire moments, as well as directly speak with individuals that were directly involved with the matters at hand. So as of right now, thankfully everything's quiet down, but we still understand that it's an issue that's plaguing our neighborhood. With that being said, I do ask that members of the community attend the 5th District Citizens Advisory Council meetings. They're held every month, and it's an opportunity to speak directly with the 5th District Commander, as well as some of the leaders leading some of the stuff here in Ward 5. It's very important that you all directly get to speak with these individuals, just because it does help. We had an incident, not an incident, we had an ongoing matter in 5D02 regarding some of the trap houses that were acting up more than usual. We have a fair amount in 5D02, but some of them were just completely acting crazy. And with direct assistance of the Office of the Attorney General and the 5th District Commander, through these meetings, we actually have got some we made great progress in not seeing a lot of this kind of nefarious activity in 5D02. So it does matter if you can attend these specific kind of meetings. Other than that, my community plug for today is an active fundraiser for our local boxing gym. We're trying to paint a mural in the front of the building and repaint the inside as we help transition this space into an adult learning center. We understand that a lot of the young adults, particularly in our area, are in need of certain skills and services to help them break out of certain cycles that have been having them in situations that we prefer them not to be in. So this is one small step towards working on direct community engagement to turn this boxing gym into a fitness center, boxing and community resource center. We are working with the Office of Returning Citizens on some programming there. So please feel free to check, at least look at the link. We're trying to raise 5K. It's a lot. And we would appreciate any help with that. And it's something that we think is going to be directly leading in some impact or way in the community to see brighter days for some of our youth and some folks that just need to break certain cycles. So other than that, feel free to reach me at my typical email address. My phone number, you can find it online. I tell all the residents, because I've had a lot of them call me lately, that you can reach me a lot better through phone. So feel free to always do that. It's easier way to access me than an email or another type of direct messaging service. So feel free to contact me if there's anything. And also just for 5D06, was that Commissioner Hoffman's district? We had a walk recently for a walk recognizing disabled and youth with Down syndrome, which was a good walk, and it ended with a good community event at the park, J. Cole Park over there in South Trinidad. It was a great event. It was good to see members of the community out and about and engaged. And other than that, just again, feel free to reach out if anything is needed.
All right, thank you so much for that. 5D03. I think we've still got you on mute, Commissioner Elmore.
Sorry, guys. Just have one update right now for my single member district. For those who are well aware and concerned, our traffic safety assessment for 19th and M and 19th Street up to Maryland Avenue. The DDOT has up until October the 21st. I've been watching it frequently every single day for the safety traffic assessment and analysis to include speed bumps down the additional part of 19th Street and on M Street. As we know, all other streets have been installed in the neighborhood for speed bumps. It's just the main roads. So I'm working with DDOT engineers on the analysis and the data tracking, but they should have a resolution by 10/21. That's my 180 days since I last put in my last request. So I'm giving them till then to have a resolution, or we'll either escalate or start this cycle again. But hopefully we can get this done within the next week or so. That's it.
All right, thank you. 5D04.
Good evening, everyone. I just would like to make a quick announcement. Due to the single member districting, 5D04 will become 5D09. I was not going to run again, but I checked with the Board of Elections and everything. There's no ANC commissioner for 5D09. So I went down, I signed the affidavit and everything. It was approved. So I would like for everybody that gets a ballot that says 5D09, could you please write my name in, Bernice Blacknell, for your ANC commissioner. As you can see, I'm still working on a lot of things. Just because y'all do not see me walking around in the street, do not think that I'm not doing my job as an ANC commissioner. So I'm just asking y'all to please write my name in under 5D09. That is the new single member district.
Right, thank you for that. And then just to, make sure everyone's informed, you will be receiving ballots in the mail soon. If you haven't already, I've already gotten mine as of yesterday. So please be on the lookout for your purple and white envelopes. And just in some semi-personal news, I will be on maternity leave beginning next month's meeting. You'll be hearing from Commissioner Salcedo Guzman, who's our vice chair. He'll be running the meetings for November and December. So I really appreciate him stepping into that role so I can enjoy a new bundle of joy on the way. So I do appreciate his service as a vice chairperson. There will still be some things happening in the background for 5D05. So we'll still be addressing the loitering issues at 19th and Benning/Bennett Place. MPD is making some efforts there. The council member's office is trying to help us with some of the events that they mentioned earlier in the meeting in terms of trying to redirect some of that energy toward jobs and, getting young men off the street who are just hanging out there all day and, drinking and barbecuing and doing all kinds of things and leaving lots of trash for the neighbors. We will still be working to enforce the settlement agreement with the Food 7 in regards to the actions that they're supposed to be taking in terms of loitering on their personal property that haven't taken place by the deadline, which was September 21st. So we'll be asking ABRA to take action there because a lot of those things were not completed on time. The parking assessments that have been promised for the fall are still moving forward. Illegal construction inspections, especially for the two major problem properties that we have on 20th Street and on 19th Street are still scheduled for this month. And I will be following up on today's report from MPD of a homicide on 21st Street. So I do just want to take this opportunity to say that there will still be things going on in the background. I thank everyone so much, for your support as I am kind of finishing out the year and this term, to make sure that we still get some things accomplished, especially my other commissioners who are helping out with some of the constituent services in the interim. So thank you all so much. 5D06 was Commissioner Hoffman, but he has resigned as we shared. So 5D07, Commissioner Cobb.
I have no specific updates except just to reiterate what was said at the beginning of this meeting, that Commissioner Salcedo Guzman and I are filling in for 5D06, which was previously represented by Commissioner Hoffman. So if you have any concerns, feel free to reach out to either of us.
Thank you so much for that. All right, and so final action as chairperson before we close out and transfer things over to Commissioner Salcedo Guzman, who I thank very, very much. I move to adjourn tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the ayes have it. Thank you all so much.
Be safe, everybody.
Yeah.